Yo, and we are live. Come one, come all. Nothing but love, nothing but respect. You know what we do, what we don't, what we is, what we isn't, and what we is here today. Talking about chapter 1040 of One Piece, Falling on Deaf Ears. I got with me tonight Eggs for Brekkie. Hello, hello.
Hello, hello.
Hello, hello. And the audio's working good too. Sweet. Didn't end up testing it before we got in. Um, Today's stream may end up being pretty quick. Not only because me and Eggs have both got things on today, but also because this chapter, there's only really two talking points or three talking points in the chapter, isn't there?
Yeah, when I finished reading it, I was kind of like, this was sort of a null chapter,
Like,
to be honest with you.
can I just preface and start this by saying, right, never in my life have both of us been so right and so wrong at the same time, you know what I mean? Because
Mm-hmm.
nothing new happened this chapter. The same attack from the end of last chapter is what finished Big Mum off.
Literally, yeah.
Just with Law doing a little bit more added on stuff that did no damage, right?
Yeah, it was just like, hey, by the way, I've got this cool little nod to my past.
But it was still a complete chapter of them continuing the fight.
Yeah, and it was literally all that happened was Kid was like, I'm just going to do the same thing again. Shoot
Yeah,
her down,
dude.
and then she fell through the island.
So I don't know if you've seen. I've titled this stream. Did Kid live up to expectations? Useless Captain Mid. Um, just because I'm sure we're gonna have an interesting discussion on it, and I did take the effort today to go through off stream, and I sent it through to you. But we've made a collection of all of Kid's scenes in Onigashima,
Mm-hmm.
and he has done jack shit. He's done jack shit coolly, but he has done jack shit.
Yeah,
Like
just straight up.
I I've never found a way to describe like Kid is the only person I think in all of One Piece that is by far not weak, but he's not strong, if that makes sense. And it's not like a downplay thing, but it's like he's like the only person in the story that was set up to potentially be a genuine rival of Luffy, other than Blackbeard. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and he
And
just wasn't.
I think in hindsight, what it was, and me and my wife talked about this off stream, but it was if Luffy has the perfect balance between himself being strong and his crew being strong, and Law carries his crew, Kid's kind of getting carried by his crew with Killer and the fodder.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that Kid's not strong, right? But I mean, like, there are so many ways he could have even used his base powers from what we've seen so much more devastatingly that would have fit into his character and what was set up with his character. And whether or not Oda just didn't think of it, or Oda was just like, yeah, no.
You know what I just realized?
What?
We always goof on Jack for having no W's. Kid, like, literally has no feats at all. He just has a bunch of L's.
But, oh, I mean, technically now he's beaten Big Mum by TKO.
Yeah, but he didn't do anything.
Yeah. So,
So he got carried in a fight against Big Mom.
the
And
funniest...
you know what I think is even funnier is that there was the whole side story with Killer taking out
Hawkins?
Hawkins so that Kid could be free, so that Kid could be free to fight Big Mom, and that was like a whole thing. And then Kid didn't do anything.
Yeah.
It's like,
Kid... So, okay, this is going to sound like almost blasphemous, right? Because I found out there's a group of people out there that were really like, oh my god, Kid was so impressive.
right.
I cannot justify that, and I don't. I'm not leaning into the Kid slander, because and anyone that's been watching me on this channel for a long time, I mean, my best video, my most viewed video, was years ago. Me saying why Kid is gonna have Rio 100%.
Mhm.
That did not live up, and maybe I was overhyping him too much because what he did do was interesting and cool, right? But it really, like, I almost wish Oda didn't confirm that he had armament and conquerors. Or
Yeah.
at least I would have liked it if he used Conquerors once in the fight, even if it did absolutely nothing. You know what I mean?
Even if it was like Big Mom is using her conquerors, and maybe like because she's so powerful, like Law is like getting a little bit tired from it.
Like
And
the
he sort of like counters with his conquerors enough to
something like the Bullet versus Luffy in Stampede with the Conquerors Clash.
yeah,
Where it was like he was completely overwhelmed, but he still had it. Because I have to ask, right? In your opinion, Damned Punk, his laser or his I mean, it was a railgun because you can see a projectile on Big Mom, even though last chapter hinted that it wasn't. You can see.
Well, I thought the whole point was that like the literal kanji spelling of it is missing the kanji for projectile.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have a projectile.
Except you can see the projectile pushing on Big Mom's stomach.
Like blur bit?
That black bit, yeah. And it's consistent in heaps of panels.
Yeah, okay.
So
I mean, hey, I don't think it really makes too much of a difference, right? It's just
well, I mean,
trash.
it makes I mean, it's hard, right? Because it's like,
if you're gonna ask, like, is it the same strength as like Kizaru's laser?
No.
I don't know, because realistically, I think the point of that was to try and like her coming back, even though she got hit by it, and saying, "Oh, you're just tickling me," is to make Big Mom like save a bit of face, right? To make her seem like an absolute monster right before she died. She didn't just get smashed.
Well, I mean, okay.
Honestly, I think it could be as strong as a Kizaru's laser, but they just wanted to show that Big Mom isn't like bad.
Based on that wording, then I gotta ask: do you think Big Mom's out?
Because she's out for this arc.
Yeah. Do you think? I mean, I think she got tastefully removed from this arc in a technicality to potentially be beaten by Luffy.
Yes. I don't think it'll happen this arc.
Elbaf, if it's going to happen.
Yeah, I think she's out for this arc, and I think if we see her again, it'll just be her crewmates coming to pick her up.
Yeah. Oh, well, I mean, look, she could get pushed off this arc and be like, look, you know, Kaido's lost too much already, the alliance isn't worthwhile. She leaves. But she's still got to deal with the government ships around Wano and Zoe.
Yeah.
So
unless Zoe takes them all out, I guess.
There could be a naval battle ensuing soon, with Big Mom creating an opening for that when we finish the fight for our good guys to leave.
I don't know if I agree with this, but it could genuinely just be like she tries to escape and then she gets captured.
I mean, that's possible.
Here's the thing, like, if they capture Big Mom, whatever the hell, like, mission they were there for, if you capture Yonko, you're just going to be like, yeah, this is as good as we're going to get, we're leaving now. Like, we're not going to try to take more than this, you know, we're going to take her to the prison right away. So if we go for more, it's like, she's going to get out of captivity.
And I mean, they got 3 CP0 agents nearby. Like, low-key, they could have just done to Big Mom what Queen did to Big Mom at the beginning of the arc, where he just put some sea stone cuffs on her, chains her the shit up, leaves her on the ship, and they've just got 3 medium to high tier guards just being like, yeah, you know, we won't let her break out of him, let's get her home.
Yeah, true.
But I mean, I feel so hard done by Kid. And maybe it's because I was expecting more because of the way Oda was hyping him up. And it's not to say that what he did do wasn't cool. It's just like, all of it felt like a taster of potential. To the point where Zoro, Law, Luffy have a better portrayal than him this arc.
Yeah.
And I can see some people arguing Killer has a better portrayal than him this arc.
I actually think Killer having a better portrayal of him is a no-brainer. But I think in terms of like feats and stuff, if you want to like really critically analyze it, at the same time, it's like, obviously I don't think Killer's stronger than him, right?
Yeah.
Like just narratively, he's not.
But based on what we're seeing and what we've seen him do, it's kind of hard, right? And it's not
calcs. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I'm gonna do power scaling calcs.
Mm.
Like, Killer would come out higher than Kid.
See, and this is why. What do we got? Do you think Big Mom will not? Do you think Big Mom not using Advanced Conquerors against Laura and Kid? Big Mom not using Advanced Conquerors. I personally think that Big Mom not using it against them is because they didn't have it, so she didn't deem it necessary. I know that might sound like a cop out of why she didn't just beat them up, but Big Mom has actually been pretty tasteful in her attacks. She's only used as much power as she's needed to hurt people, and it's always actually been really effective. Because like you got like people forget Big Mom turned Prometheus into like a giant sun and just dropped it in the seducing woods and made a mad hole. She could have done that any time this arc and just completely obliterated a large area. I mean, you saw her with Hera put a hole through like all of Onigashima. Not to mention her Elbaf spear doing the same thing, right?
Yeah.
But Big Mom, like weirdly enough, if she's not versing someone high tier, she doesn't resort to using those high tier techniques, which is why it's almost shocking that she had them in the first place. Like, when Big Mom got mad and used an advanced Rio Conqueror's punch against Page 1, I don't know if you remember my reaction to that. I was just like, what the shit? She's got it too? You know what I mean? But it's the only time she's used it. It's not to say that she can't consistently use it. It's like... It's like, though, she...
That's the thing, is that I think you could make a pretty solid argument that Kid and Killer just had her, like, flustered.
Kid and Law.
There was just, like, too much stuff going on. And, like, it's entirely possible that she fights Luffy after this and she's using, like, Conqueror's Rio the entire time.
I mean...
And it's actually, like, a really good fight.
Not to mention, like, and this is very cleanly to point out here, they did not beat Big Mom. They did not knock out Big Mom. They did not kill Big Mom. They took out Big Mom's footing and specifically nerfed her ability to call her homies. And having a look later on in the chapter, and I'll go to it now. So you know how I was saying I couldn't see any bomb?
Yeah.
I re-looked at it. It's not one of the bombs that were going to blow up Onigashima. You actually see there's a single torpedo that falls with her. So when you look at the page where you see the bottom of Onigashina's ass blowing up, right? And you see Big Mom falling and there's a bubble and the smoke coming off her. The bit of debris directly above her is a torpedo. And then in the panel on the next page, on the last page, you can see it up right above her and to the right a little bit.
Torpedo from where?
From the armory.
Right.
So it's not one of those giant bombs, but that's... And again, like when I saw that, I was like, oh my god, that's a torpedo. Like,
yeah, right.
That's one of those things that, like, the Beast Pirates may have been underwhelming in one-on-one combat for some people, but, like, they had some weapons. Like, you got to think, they have Sea Prism Stone in abundance. They have long-range artillery for their ships, and now they've got torpedoes like this that are arguably... I mean, Big Mom's 8 meters tall. This torpedo is like an 8-meter long torpedo, and look how much damage it does next to the Flower Capital.
Yeah.
Like, I genuinely could see the argument being had that Kaido is the strongest Yonko for a naval combat situation.
Yeah, I can see that.
Because, like, everyone else just has generic ships or strong individuals on their ships, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But, like, Kaido really made up for the fact that his crew's kind of, like, strong but mediocre, and was just like, we're just going to go hard on the tools to make sure we win this. Alright. Got some comments here. R room stands for Rosante's room since it's close to Law's heart, while K room is Katana's room, which is his sword. Kid and Law won because they are pirates and there are no rules in a pirate, just like how Nami won against Ulti. Speaking of Seastone, it's 100% concentrated Seastone cuffs that was chained to Big Mom, but she still isn't weakened by it. I mean, yeah, that's actually a good point. Big Mom had the full-fledged... Oh! I don't know if you could say that there were full-fledged Seastone handcuffs in that regard, in all honesty, because why... Like, they made sea stone cuffs weak enough for everyone to be able to move. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
So it was already pre-refined, arguably. But
Yeah,
I mean,
if you wanted to be fair, true.
like, but that's a stickler thing. Like that could really be like if Oda said it either way, it doesn't matter. It's
Yeah.
There's up for room of discussion there. So
Like,
Luffy,
it's possible that it was only enough to turn their powers off and not enough to weaken them physically.
yeah. Oh well, I mean, you had people like Karabu still walking around perfectly fine, and he's a bitch, right? Which again, like I'm half surprised that Caribou didn't get dragged into something in this fight. In all honesty, being a Logia and all that, he could have been doing some interesting stuff. So Luffy's strength is really skyrocketed since he trained with Sea Stone, but I don't know if he's also wearing concentrated Sea Stone since he's the one wearing it. Said to be lesser concentrated for him to be able to move. Yeah, I think all the Sea Stone that we see in Wano is weak enough to just disable powers, but still keep people moving. Because I think the point of the Seeker Stone in the arc is just to nullify people's abilities. And low key, as a beast pirate, you don't want to make a mistake and actually kill yourself because you accidentally nicked yourself with some sea stone and got it stuck on you.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? And like the beast pirates are strong enough to overpower people physically for the most part. So just cuffing someone is good enough, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
I gotta ask. Is this probably the best way to have dealt with Big Mom?
I actually think it is.
Because
Actually, like, I'm really satisfied from this, and I was honestly thinking, like, I don't see a way that I'm going to be satisfied, because either Big Mom's going to get goofed on way too hard, and I'm going to be a bit annoyed, or they're both going to get like an insane power up, which I'm going to be annoyed. So I was like, yeah, but this is like perfect because it just makes a lot of sense the way they ended it. And the thing is like, even after they give everything that they've got, she still gets up, basically fully heals herself in an instant, and goes, "You kids suck." But then they just manage to knock her off the edge.
They point blank just say like, Big Mom's at full health.
They're literally like,
she's laughing the shit off, which, like, Law absolutely gets major props. Kid, not so much. Like I said, I went through all of Kid's scenes today in all of Onigashima just to see what his moves and stuff like that were. Against Big Mom, apart from just blunt force impact, the only time he ever really hurt her was after Law's first shock willy, when he hit her with his bull. The next, so Big Mom coughs up blood from the shock willy. Then she starts talking for a bit, and then Kid hits her, and then you see a scene where she spits a little bit of blood, but it's nowhere near as much, and then she's fine. So it's like, and I don't know, this is going to really be upsetting to have to say out loud, but arguably that's the most damage Kid did to Big Mom this entire arc. And I'm not saying that to like hate on Kid. It's just I went through the panels, right? And that's the only time Big Mom reacted to him in a negative way.
Yep.
Apart from the damned punk, in which case she literally was eating the laser just like, what are you going to do? She literally, she's getting pushed down a hole. She's grabbing on all the, like, land mass around the hole. Just like, oh, the second this thing stops, I'm going to kick your ass, you little shit. And in all honesty, if it wasn't for Law putting the R room on Big Mom would have just been picked up by one of her homies and would continue to fight.
Yeah.
Like,
so okay, yeah. So what was the deal with that room? Like, seemingly to me, all it did was like stop her from doing her like Conqueror's Haki screech.
No,
going.
I think it was to stop her calling for calling Prometheus and Hera to grab her from falling.
Right, so they weren't nearby.
Well, they were nearby, but Law cuts because they're in that misery form.
Yeah.
They only take orders from Big Mom. So when Law cuts them in half, right?
Yeah.
And Big Mom's being pushed down, they're not hearing Big Mom scream like, "Help me." Because you see her screech, Prometheus, Hera, what are you doing? Come help me. But it's silented.
Yeah, okay.
So they don't stop her falling because she takes no damage from this.
Yeah.
Right? Even when she grabs the bomb blasts her face a bit and gives her a bit of a reaction, but she's still clean. It's not until she lands in the hole and the other bomb goes off and she's trapped in there with it that it actually does anything. Right?
Yeah.
Which, two things. One, it was really smart of Law to beat Big Mum in that capacity, and Law really directly countered all of Big Mum's abilities. So, I know this might piss off some people, but like Law and Kid versus Big Mum was kind of like Nami and Luffy versus Cracker, except if Luffy was the direct counter for everything and Nami was just running interference with the homies. If that makes sense. Right. Like Law directly countered Big Mum in every way, right? Makes her mute so she can't call for help. Is a good swordsman, can teleport himself all around her to get around her and that, and has abilities that bypasses her defense. While Kid, his entire reason for being in this fight, other than the fact that Oda wanted to just show Kid, his entire reason for being in the fight is just to give Law an opening to do something. The only thing he really did notable was push her through the hole that Law made.
That's true.
And it's a little bit disappointing, I'm not going to lie.
Kid was... I don't know, so the thing is like, you, and rightly so, have always kind of believed that Kid was going to be significant, because Oda himself literally said that he was significant. I've always had like this feeling where I was like, metal, you know what I mean? Like metal in this series is so bad. And I was like, and I've always kind of thought like, oh, he can't be that good, can he? And then, but see, even now seeing this, even I'm disappointed. Even I'm like, okay, you should have been stronger than that, though.
The problem is, I come from this, and like, I know I was hyping up Kid, but the reason I was hyping up Kid is because I'm a Law fan.
The thing is like, Kid is like, hyping up Kid is within reason, because he was like, Oda literally said that he's the only one that he had plans for, and you know, he was literally shown in the prison to be like neck and neck with Luffy. So like, you had good reason to.
Okay, so
didn't happen.
The thing is, even with what we've seen of Kid now, I could tell you how to tweak some of what his actual moves have been in a way to make him 10 times more badass. Right? Remember that harpoon arm he made?
Yeah.
Imagine, like, say he still doesn't have anything that can hurt a Yonko, because that's just not in his... Without the Haki, it's not in his scope of abilities, right?
Yeah.
So, why didn't we see something, even for a second, where, say, someone like King or Queen or Jack blocked his path while he was going to the rooftop or something, right? Or just, and like, even coming back down for Big Mum. I know it would have interrupted the flow of stuff a bit, but like, could you imagine if he had his harpoon arm, he uses a sign on an enemy and on the tip of his harpoons, right? The enemy comes flying at him. To stop himself going flying at them, he uses like a tether ability where he uses magnetism with his other arm to like stop himself flying forward. As soon as the people get impaled on his spears, he uses a sign again to make the spear go flying directly behind the person. And so the spears either just rip through the person or drag the person back, and they have a massive impact damage while getting impaled.
Yeah.
That, he's already showcased both of those abilities separately, but just combining them, that makes him so much more lethal, and that's more in line with like the Kid that was impaling people and crucifying people from pre-time skip. And I can understand not necessarily wanting to show that to kids and stuff like that, but it's like just tweaking his abilities and the way he uses them in that little manner just makes Kid so much more of that like ruthless maniac that people wanted, and makes him a little bit more threatening, where it's like, okay, he's not like Luffy where he just punches. He's not like someone like Zoro and Killer, though, who just cuts stuff. You know what I mean? Like, he uses the metal to tear through you, and it's not about destroying the metal, because the metal's all scrap anyway. It just keeps reforming. Because I feel like that's what Oda was going for with him. Because how many times did he make a big mechanical thing and it just gets shat on and it's just like, it's just scrap.
Yeah, that's true.
But
and then you can just kind of remake it.
But the problem is, every time he remade it, he didn't. It never did anything.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like even on the rooftop, one of the best things he ever did was when he punched Big Mum and then used the metal to wrap around her arm, and he used it to repel her up into the air, right?
Yeah.
Why couldn't we have gotten like? So you know how he's doing the suplex stuff.
Yeah.
Why couldn't we have gotten stuff then? Where, like, okay, he's not as strong as people, right? But he gets around it in other ways. So it's like, he does that again. Big Mum gets sent flying up in the air, and then he goes a sign with the ground, and she just comes belly flopping down. And he just keeps crushing people in their own weight and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Okay, yeah.
Like, it's just a few different ways for him to have used his powers. And, like, that's not even doing something broken, like me saying, put Haki onto your metal or make a storm of metal and stuff like that. You know what I mean? It's just like moves we've seen from him do that he could have done just to be a bit more lethal.
Yeah, true.
Because it's like, I mean, you know how we saw, like I was just saying, we saw him wrap metal around Big Mum and then repel her up into the air, right? Yeah. How much more technical and cool would it have been if every time Big Mum was coming in with like Napoleon or something like that, he would like throw off a bit of scrap metal at her and it acted as like handcuffs, and he would use it to repel the arm that she's using to attack as a parry, just to make an opening for himself.
Yeah, that would be good.
Like, and it's hard, right? Because like I was talking to Glitter about this today, right? Where I'm like, a genuinely hard question now for me, and I know this might sound like I'm overestimating or underestimating significantly now, right? But like, just to point out, right, when this fight's done, notice how Law's still up and Kid's out on his back.
Yeah. So him shooting that blast must have taken tons of effort, which is weird.
Or the damage that he took from Hawkins has taken him out.
Right.
Either way, it's either a stamina thing or a HP thing, and he was already at his limit, right? Law's taken a lot of shit, though, from Big Mum. Law's taken more shit from Big Mum than Kid.
Or took more from Kaido than Kid as well.
Yeah. So it's like, Kid has health, and he's got, like, a much better endurance than some people. I mean, like, Capone took 2 punches from Big Mum and was spewing blood out. Right?
Yeah.
So he's already got, like, way above normal health, right? But it's like, in attack power, in speed, in scale, in range, and in health, Law seems over Kid at this point in time.
Yeah.
Kid, and I need to preface this. I'm not trying to downplay Kid. I know I keep saying that, but it's like, I'm coming from this standpoint of like, I've been a massive Law fan. Law's been one of my top 10 favorite characters for a decade now, really, right? But just with Kid alone, I felt bad for people that are fans of Kid, because it's he didn't even get well, Law's better in this, but Kid's better in this treatment. He really got treated as a chihuahua, you know, big bark, little bite.
It was literally like, it felt like if Luffy and Whitebeard at Marineford were to fight Akainu and win. It's like all Whitebeard, obviously.
Yeah.
And then it's like, you're not going to big up Luffy from that.
Mm-hmm. Like, fuck it. Put 2 massive chunks of metal on either one of Big Mum's arms and try to rip her arms off. Even if you have Big Mum just getting stretched out and then she like, you know, peck decks it, and it's just like, ugh, you think that'll be enough to beat me? But like I'm surprised he didn't do stuff like that.
Yeah, just little things. Just keep wrapping her in metal constantly, or just stick things to her.
And that, like, and we saw him do it once with his awakening, where he assigned it for her, and all the metal just went whoonk, right? Mm. But like once the metal was all next to her, as if he didn't just start like messing with the magnet, like with he brought ammo to a fight and then didn't use the ammo.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's true.
He literally brought ammo to the fight and then started using legitimate non-magnetic things with his awakening to fight.
By the way, saying that, it would actually be pretty cool if Kid just carried like tons of bullets with him, and he basically just like shot hundreds of bullets at a time and then pulled them back.
Yeah.
And then shot him again, and like he was just basically like, and they were actual like gun bullets. He just kept shooting you basically. He just had like 100 bullets flying in the air, always shooting at you and then being retrieved and then shooting again.
Honestly, I'm not gonna lie. With how Big Mom got beaten here, I'm surprised there wasn't a Kid Law combo or killer coming out of nowhere and a Kid killer combo of Kid supercharged speeding a swordsman, using their sword as like a launching pad to shoot them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, I don't say this often. I feel like Oda was creative with Kid's awakening, but wasn't creative with his moveset.
Yeah, I could see that.
And yeah, like it's hard. It's hard. We've got a few more comments here. What bounty would you give Law, Kid, Zoro, and Sanji now? The bounty that I personally would give them, I would put Sanji at... okay, who do we have? I'd put Sanji at a bill. I would put Zoro at 1.3 bill. This is me personally, right?
Is this what you think they'll get?
No, this is what I would give them, and I've got to preface
I think that's a lot harder.
because what I would give them, I'm not gonna overestimate them, right? Realistically, as strong as Zoro is, he's easier to deal with than someone like King at the moment. If that makes sense. He doesn't have the versatility. King's bounty is 1.375 or 195.
Yeah.
So it's like, he's in the same ballpark and he beat King by all means, right? But it's like, I mean, Zoro got a bounty for 60 mil for beating Daz Bones, who had a bounty of 75 mil.
Yeah.
So it's not unheard of to have a lower bounty. And from the lava to the flight to the defense, King has more than Zoro. Zoro just has attack power. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I think it will mostly determine. It'll depend because the thing is like so Katakuri, for example, has a much lower bounty than
King and Queen.
King. Yeah, which I don't think that's deserved, right? It's just because of the crew that he's a part of and all that stuff. So in terms of like power levels, I think it's really hard just to gauge. So I think like the only way that you can really do it is like if you do it based on like what the world would perceive, rather than strength. Because like like saying he has a 1.3 because King is that. Like, I agree with you. That's fair. But it's like okay, but Cat has lower.
Yep. So
weird. Right?
So this is what I'm saying, right? For me, Sanji's roughly he's worthy of a bill, right? And I should preface this: King, Queen, and Jack aren't necessarily deserving of their bounties, in my opinion. I think the three of them are overestimated by the government because of the evil of the organization they're a part of, right?
Yeah.
The chemical weapons and all that sort of stuff. So me saying that Sanji's a bill is me saying like Sanji in hand-to-hand, foot-to-foot combat, right, is out here being arguably as deadly as, say, someone like Katakuri. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I've got Zoro at 1.3 bill or 1.32 bill. Sanji at 1 bill, right? I know this is going to piss some people off. I would put Law at 1.4 bill, just over Zoro.
I'm cool with that.
And I would probably put Kid 950. He's been impressive enough for me to say he could probably beat anyone that's not a commander, right? And I know he's injured commanders, and he's shown some ridiculous abilities. I think in the commander range, for Kid alone, it comes down solely to matchup. And what I mean by that is like, and this is what I was saying before. I was talking to Glitter off stream about Kid versus Doflamingo. And one of the problems with Kid versus Doflamingo... sorry, we're getting a bit of feedback there. One of the problems with Kid versus Doflamingo is Can
from me. So.
yeah, no, that's all good. Can Kid beat Doflamingo? With his awakening, I could see him bypassing Doflamingo's defense and getting around like the awakening that Luffy couldn't in Gear 4. But in terms of attack power, I don't think Kid has anything equal to Gear 4. So we know that Dofi's susceptible to blunt force damage, considering Luffy was hurting him significantly with punches. Also, for anyone that says Doflamingo was at like half health or whatever because of Law and the Gamma Knife, that's wrong. Law destroyed his organs, and that was the damage. Doflamingo remade those organs, and was effectively as if Law had never even hurt him. Because, much like how Law was a good counter to Big Mom, Dofi was a perfect counter to Law. You know what I mean? And so, I could see people making an argument either way for Kid versus Dofi, you know what I mean?
Yeah, true.
Like, we saw Dofi just cut through metal like it was nothing. Right?
Yeah.
And Kid's metal is nothing more special than just metal. It's just a lot of it. You know what I mean? But then...
Yeah, that's true.
If Kid started using his awakening to throw Doflamingo at even Doflamingo's own string to cause damage, that could do a lot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it like... If I were to say, like, Kid versus Cracker, Kid beats Cracker because he can bypass Cracker's defense, right? But if I were to say Kid versus Katakuri, Marco, I mean, shit, even King, right? The first commanders might fuck him up. Especially in a one-on-one fight, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I'd agree. Like, I think it's only fair to give Law mad credit. Like, when you consider that Luffy got a 1.5 bill for beating a first commander.
Yep.
Like, I think it's pretty fair that Law gets like a similar thing, considering that in this case, he was also part of the raid at 2 Yonko go down. Mm-hmm. He helped take out a Yonko. Like,
the only thing,
like, yeah, that's huge.
The only thing that may actually help Kid here is Killer, in the sense that Law and Kid beat Big Mom together, but Kid may get a higher bounty than Law, even though Law's at 500 mil now and Kid's only at 470, because Killer beat a Supernova. So he may get a double buff.
Yeah, true.
Even if he has been more underwhelming than Law. And I'm not like, so that's what I would give them as a bounty. If I'm telling you what I think Oda will give them as a bounty, all right. First things first. You asked. It was Law, Kid, Zoro, Sanji, right? I think Sanji would be funny to get 999 billion or million, 999 mil. You know, the 3 3s are 9, so, you know, 999. It'd fit with his theming. And then Zoro, like I said, Zoro's probably going to sit around the 1.4 billion mark. Over King, over all the other first commanders. And just shy of Luffy's 1.5 bill. Because Zoro will be in the situation that Luffy was in Whole Cake Island, where he's defeated a first division commander in one-on-one combat. You know what I mean?
Oh, right.
The difference being there was more impressive shit happening. Like Zoro versus King wasn't the peak of this arc by any stretch. You know what I mean?
I agree.
Whereas Law and Kid, because they get split, because they get, you know, like a divided bounty here together, I could see an argument being had that Big Mom's bounty is 4.3, right? I could see them getting split evenly, 2,150,000,000, but Kid having like 20 mil over Law. Because Killer beat a Supernova and Beppo's done shit all. You know what I mean? To the point where it's a gag where when they wake up, kid's like, haha, I took out Big Mom. And Laura's like, I did all the work. What the fuck do you mean? Why does he get credit? What the hell is this? What, Killer beat Hawkins? I beat Hawkins earlier in the arc. No one's talking about that.
Yeah, I could definitely see that.
You know what I mean? It adds that comedy, that little bit of spice.
It seems like Oda uses the bounties as a way to a bit of a meme. It would make sense.
Okay, Daniel K. I think Big Mom can't use Advanced Conquerors that much since her power is soul based, which might weaken her Haki the more she uses it. Honestly, like I was saying, I think the reason she's not using it is because it's not needed. Advanced Conqueror's Haki, I mean, we still don't know the effects of Advanced Conqueror's Haki, but arguably you have to physically touch the person to damage them with it, whether it's with a sword or whether it's with your fist. Big Mum doesn't really land too many physical punches on these people. She's more using her elements because that's more of her devil fruit based fighting.
Yeah.
So I think it's the reason she didn't use more advanced conk is because she didn't need to. If Hera and Prometheus and even the Napoleon are just beating the shit out of these guys without it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Zoro should be close to Luffy, but closer to Sanji. Law is higher than Kid since his bounty is already higher pre-Onigashima. Killer is lower than Sanji's bounty. Do you know what? Killer's bounty... Killer might step into that 700 mil range with Perisparrow. I think that's a healthy place to put Killer.
Okay.
Because... And no offense to Killer, right? He's no commander yet, if that makes sense. Like,
yeah.
I could see Killer beating Cracker because he can bypass the Cracker's defense, like he did with Kaido. But he's nowhere near as physically strong as Cracker or Katakuri.
Yeah, he's not as big of a threat for sure.
Yeah, like Killer, and I may get on blast for this a bit. Killer is equal to Zoro before Enma. Like, to me, Killer and Zoro were dead even before Enma, and then Zoro gets Enma plus Advanced Conqueror's Haki. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like Killer's still like a nerfed Killer and a nerfed Zoro tied in a fight, whereas Zoro's gotten 2 power-ups since then.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like, before Enma, you couldn't really argue in good faith that Zoro can just straight up cut through a Cracker.
Yeah.
Right, so you couldn't really put Zoro above.
Yeah. Like, I remember us having conversations as to whether or not we believed, even with like 3,000 worlds, it would be possible for him to cut the Crackers in half or not.
I was thinking it was kind of like a thing where it's like, if he did like his greatest, strongest possible attack, he'd probably be able to cut through a Cracker, but he would nowhere near be able to do that consistently enough to even get close to beating
Cracker.
Yeah.
Whereas...
Like in the same way that like a Gear 4 punch, if it's been weakened by Nami, would break through it. And I think like maybe if like Luffy did like a King Kong Ultra Cannon double bazooka thingo, it would be able to like crack one of the Crackers. Doesn't matter because it's just too much work for what you're getting out from it.
100%. Look, Killer is like Kid. He's only useful in specific matchups. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which sort of leans into a good question here. What do you think Kid's plan was with Killer, Hawkins, and Apu for taking out Shanks?
Here's the thing. To be fair, Killer is like, if he was like an allied commander, or like one of like, like one of Whitebeard's like 18 commanders.
Yep.
Like 9th Division commander. It would be pretty well. It would be pretty good.
Yeah. Oh, look, okay. Look, so look, Killer could probably fuck up Cavendish.
Yeah, I reckon so.
Right? Because Killer was at least relative to Zoro, and Zoro was going to shit on Cavendish.
Yeah.
So it's like, Killer's not weak. And in terms of like the Straw Hat crew, right? I mean, arguably it's taking Zoro, Sanji, or Jinbei to take him out.
Yep.
I could see an argument for Frankie, but low key, I think Killer just bypasses the defense and just like sonic damages Frankie and takes him out that way.
Yep.
You know what I mean? But it's like, he's not weak at all. The problem is the gap between Kid and Killer isn't as big as we thought. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas on the flip side, it's like the gap between Law and Beppo. Like, Beppo is a mink, yeah, which means he's strong, but we saw no Sulong. We saw no... I mean, arguably, Beppo is the weakest mink we have seen. Because every other mink we've seen is capable of using and controlling Sulong at least a bit, because it's culturally part of what they do. Beppo left the country before that.
True.
We've never seen him use it. Like, in this war would have been the perfect time to see a Sulong Beppo do something. You know what I mean? Like I was saying, as if we didn't see Beppo or Heat teaming up and taking down one of the numbers with, like, Kid and Law's crew. You know what I mean? It's just like... It's hard. It's one of those situations where I wish the anime would actually do more filler fights like that with filler people. Or, like, lesser known people. Because in the manga it gets completely glossed over. And they definitely... It definitely feels like Law and Kid's crew aren't alive. They're just a chorus for their captain, being like, yes, we're so strong. Yes, we're doing this now. Yes, we're doing that now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay. Killer is lower than Sanji's bounty. Luffy's 3 billion, Law 2.5 billion, Kid 2.4 billion, Zoro 2 billion, Sanji 1.9 billion, Killer 900. Whatever Hawkins' bounty will be, he will surpass. Hawkins' bounty is only 320 mil. I think the Straw Hats bounties should be balanced. Since I think that Shanks' bounty is pretty equal with his crew. Or crewmates. Oh, hang on 1 second. I'll be back in 2 seconds. I've just got a little bit of an issue, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and we are back.
You're going.
I paused the stream for a second.
I was just talking for no reason then.
Nah, that's all good. Yeah, sorry about that. We're almost hitting the hour mark, so we'll have to get off in a minute.
Cool.
Okay, so okay, I think the best question to ask is this the last bounty raise the Straw Hats are getting in the series?
It really depends, because end of series could be absolute chaos. Everyone is going to war with everyone. It doesn't even matter whose bounty is what. Just kill them all. Or it could still be a bit ordered.
Because I could see this being the last bounty raise in the series, and then we don't find out what their bounties are end of series. After the final war.
Right.
Like, I could see Luffy having defeated Kaido and Big Mom being defeated in this war, having that 5,600,000,056 mil, so the Gomu Gomu bounty, right? And that being the bounty he has when he finds One Piece, since we know 9/10 of the puzzle for One Piece are found once we get this. Like, once this arc's over, we've got 6 or 7 poneglyphs to read, plus Odin's journal, plus Zoe, the Joy Boy connection, and Yamato and Momo. You know what I mean?
Yeah, okay.
So it's like, I could really see this being the final bounty raisers in the series, and this being the bounties that they'll have when they accomplish their dreams in a lot of capacity. The only problem with that is people that haven't done anything, like Usopp and Brook. You know what I mean?
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
And then the follow-up is, how much of a boost are they going to get for their bounties? And how stable is it going to be across the board? Because when we hear that Shanks' crew's got the highest average bounty, do you know why that doesn't really freaking matter at all?
Mm-hmm.
The lowest bounty that we've heard of on Shanks' crew is 94 mil. But we have people with no bounty on Big Mom's crew. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Rockstar, who isn't regarded as like one of the commanders, he's just one of the general subordinates, has a bounty of 94 mil. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If it wasn't for chapter 957 Ultimate, where they specifically single out Ben Beckman, Lucky Roo, and Yasop, you could just say that Shanks has better fodder, better lower tier commanders than the other Yonko crew, and that's it. His top commanders aren't anything special, but because we get that, that's why we put him on a pedestal. And then you get things like the Viva card, where it's like, yeah, look how much better they are. Except, and the reason I'm bringing this up is, as we saw with Kid, the bounty and the hype doesn't always necessarily equate to the story.
Yeah.
So, the fact that Beckman, Lucky Roo, and Yasop are strong, but they have no devil fruit, are they actually gonna be anything more special than any other commander or any other crew? Because the problem is now, right? Who would you say has the weakest Yonko crew?
Weakest?
At least in the top 10 commander sort of thing.
I'd have to say Blackbeard, but I also don't think that'll be the case when we see him next. It's just that we haven't seen.
It's hard though.
Good from Blackbeard.
It's hard though. Oh, well, I mean,
it's
okay.
really hard. I mean, I would honestly just say probably Kaido then.
Kaido?
I think like Katakuri carries Big Mom's crew to be really good.
If Smoothie was set into an arena and could actually fight, where it wasn't having to lead,
decent.
Like Smoothie. I mean, arguably Smoothie can grow indefinitely in height and strength.
Even then, like, I don't think Queen had that great of a showing, and I think like Cracker would be better than Jack. So really, Katakuri doesn't even need to carry them.
Yeah,
I think they've earned it.
Right. So it's sort of like at this point in time, right? Is Shanks' crew going to be over the Beast Pirates crew? Then, you know what I mean? And this isn't me trying to play devil's advocate to downplay Shanks and the Red Hair Pirates, right? It's just, narratively speaking, we all kind of feel like Blackbeard's crew is the weakest because they're the newest and they're not established. But it's like, if those pirates beat the shit out of the Red Hair Pirates, then what the hell do we do and say? Is Shanks' crew the weakest crew then? Or is it just that the Blackbeard crew finally got stronger off screen, so we now have to give them those extra strength props, even though nothing's changed in the last 10 years of us seeing them? You know what I mean? Like the time...
I think Blackbeard really is one of those dudes where like he is a raid boss on his own.
See, I'm actually starting to lean towards the idea that, like, because again, and I've said it a few times now, the Blackbeard Pirates are all losers. They've all lost before.
Yeah.
Except for his OG people that weren't from prison, I should say. But even then, his entire crew got one shot by Magellan. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
even though Shiryu didn't want to mess with Magellan in that way, Shiryu was regarded as equal to Magellan. And Magellan was out here one-shotting 2nd Division Commander level people, having multiple warlords running away from him, while hundreds of subordinates of those crews were getting shat on. No diff.
That is true.
So it's like, if you take that and just translate it to a swordsman, right? That's pretty busted. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that is true. It is pretty crazy.
Plus, now that swordsman's invisible. Like, I really find it hard to just take a step back and go, like, where are the pieces on the chessboard going from here? You know what I mean? And the fact that we're getting film Red, and it's a Shanks movie, honestly has me leaning towards the route of Oda's going to treat Shanks like kid. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
I can see it.
where people are all going, oh, I can't wait for him to finally reveal what Shanks is capable of. The reason why he never showed what Shanks is capable of is because the only time it's ever going to be necessary is when it's just to show someone else is better. Because that's what Jack was used for, wasn't it? Jack was introduced to be one of the strongest people. First person in the series with a bounty over 1 billion berries. Back when that actually meant something.
Yeah, back when that mattered.
Like, Doflamingo needed to triple his bounty to reach what Jack was. Right?
Yeah.
But then Nekomamushi and Inuarashi were fighting Jack equally one-on-one, 12 hours at a time. Shuten Maru sort of does equal trading blow for blow, even if he has the lesser end of it against Jack, right? And then arguably every other commander that we've seen is going to shit on Jack. He's just...
Yeah.
He's a big boy. He's just a big boy. That's all he is. He's a big boy. You can't even really say he can take a hit because, like, every time we've seen him get hit, he's either been flipped in elephant form and the only damage was his own body weight landing on the ground, or he got cut twice and stabbed once. It's hard to do
any arguments in his benefit because he just hasn't had a good showing. He just hasn't had a showing.
We haven't even seen him be able to just armament haki up his sword to stop it getting broken in half.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, as far as we know, Jack's just a mammoth and a fishman. And that's all he's got going for him.
Yeah. He has an ancient zone. That's it.
But, like, the problem is now, back, like, 4 years ago, that would have been like, oh, he's got an ancient zone. Look how much harder, like, look how much the Minx struggled against him. Oh, he's so strong. That's why I used to hype up Drake. Guess what? The 3 biggest disappointments of the Supernova, for me, have been Kid, Drake, Hawkins.
You agree.
Like, the 3 of them had potential to have arguments to be one of the strongest. Not Luffy, but, like, there was always an argument that they could, like, slip in as number 4. Or slip in higher for Kid's case. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They did not get that treatment. Like, the fact that Drake is an ancient zone and has all that strength of being an ancient zone, and he can't even hit as hard as Zoro can in a base form. No conquerors and shit.
Yeah,
the fact that Drake struggled physically against a poo. Man literally struggled against a shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's genuinely hard. Because it's like... I understand that Zoro's a monster. And I understand, like, people like Apu surprised me like crazy with how durable and tanky they were. You know what I mean? And it seemed like... it really seemed like Oda took the people that no one cared about out of the Supernova and was like, I'm going to make them more likable. But the ones that were already likable, he was like, people already like them enough.
True.
You know what I mean? Like, I mean, outside of Luffy and Zoro, because they're main character sort of stuff, right? Arouge got the credit for taking down a fourth commander. That's a bigger feat than any other supernova other than arguably Law and Kid. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like already you got an upset there. Everyone was impressed by Beige at Whole Cake Island because no one expected a fucking thing from him,
Yeah, everyone expected him to be kind of crap.
right?
He worked out pretty well.
And he was crap in hindsight, but he was well he was well put together crap.
Yeah, it was more. I feel like it was more like people just don't hold him to
The same
super high
standard.
standard. Yeah.
But where Oda made these other people set to a higher standard, he didn't follow through with it. You know what I mean? At this point in time, the Supernova actually feel like Zoro's rival more than Luffy's. You know what I mean? Which is why I'm actually sitting here and I'm now really curious whether or not Oda's going to make Bonnie one of the strongest Supernova. Not just because she hasn't been reintroduced into the story yet, but because everyone had high hopes for, you know, Kid, Hawkins, even Drake with his Ancient Zone, you know what I mean? People were sort of flipped on Apu. For me, Apu, Beige, and Arouge really were like, I didn't expect much from you, but you impressed me, right? Bonnie, Bonnie sits as the token woman of the group, right? But we have a lot of strong women. And we don't actually ever really see them fight all out. But the fact that Oda's keeping her separate, she has a broken ability, and the fact that people didn't expect much of her pre-time skip might end up being that, like, Oda just comes out and he's like, oh yeah, no, she's busted, because people didn't really care about her. You know what I mean?
That is true.
And it's like, it's sort of, I can't even say I'm impressed or upset about it with the whole Kid thing, because it's like, if that's what Oda was planning to do, and like Kid was not weak, he just wasn't strong. Where all these other people had a way to hurt a Yonko, Kid didn't. Like, Kid was just like, if I just had that one thing, if I had that one special ingredient, I would be here. But I don't, so I'm just gonna tag along and do nothing but run interference. You know what I mean?
But the funny thing was that he still was like so confident. And
Yeah.
He was still like, I'm doing so much.
Yeah.
He just didn't. It almost feels to me like Oda thinks in his head that he wrote Kid as someone who actually helped.
Yep.
I mean, like by the way that Kid acted the entire time, it feels like Oda was like, oh yeah, Kid's gonna be like really good, and it's gonna be Kid and Law neck and like teammates.
I mean,
we're gonna do great. But then we read it, and it's just like, nah, that's not what happened here.
Let me say this then, right? Remember all that metal the Kid was dragging up?
Yeah.
You know, he made that Punk Rotten form and then dragged more metal up and then got sent inside, and we never saw that metal again.
True.
That's an example of setup with no payoff.
Yeah, it's pretty sad.
And like, again, like I'm saying, I can't even be mad about it at this point in time because I'm just sort of flabbergasted by the fact that it's like, I and everyone expected so much more. And it's like, if Oda wanted the character to be a person that's like talks big and doesn't deliver, he fucking hit the nail on the head. and if he thinks that's badass because it's like, because it is badass, right? He actually he held his own. It's just he couldn't do anything in turn.
Yeah.
So it's like, you're a badass for that, but man, you're lacking.
I mean, it's like the scabbards, right? It's like, yeah, cool, they fought him. They fought Kaido for a while. It didn't like really hurt him though.
Mm-hmm. I mean, honestly, I'm more surprised that we didn't get to see Kid trying to like make metal coffins and like crush people with them, Gaara style.
Yeah, it would actually be a very anime thing if it was big final attack is like the what are they called? Metal coffins with the spikes.
Iron Maiden.
Iron Maiden, yeah.
See, imagine if
He's a
that's
big
what the
fan.
big finisher was for Big Mom, right? Instead of that big laser, he goes Mother's Maiden, right? Or Iron Maiden, as in like the band, right?
Yeah,
Makes
yeah.
a big
Oh,
Iron
that
Maiden,
would be just perfect for him.
m-
This is all punk rock.
makes a big Iron Maiden. The spikes come in, and although they don't pierce Big Mom, say they like put her arms in awkward places so she can't like use her soul ability, right?
Yeah.
And then they drop that into the hole, and that's what blew up.
Yeah.
That would have been a bit more badass, I think, than this big laser that did nothing. Like, it was shooting Big Mom for like what felt like 5 minutes straight, and Big Mom's just like, stop waterboarding me. Like, it didn't even scratch her.
Yeah,
Like,
did not do anything.
it actually felt demoralizing with how little it did. Okay, so we've got some comments here. So 16 chapters until Wano ends. That's the prediction, it seems. I really miss sailing moments and discovering new islands. Yo, I just would love to have a montage of the Straw Hat Pirates
fully
just
agree.
traveling around. Like,
I've been like rewatching like the episodes that are out on
Yep.
Netflix, like the earlier ones, and there are actually a lot of like really good like character building. And I guess it's fair because the characters have already been built. Right?
Yep.
There's been so many good like character building moments that they're just on
I
the
mean,
ship, and you just get to like learn their
look,
personalities.
I kind of appreciated that that's what we got with Odin's flashback, though.
That's true.
Because we got to see Odin just like through, beer tinted goggles, just running around being like, oh my god, this is amazing. Oh my god, this is so cool. Yeah. You know what I mean?
But like, I feel like even since like Brooke joined the crew, there hasn't really been much.
But
All there's been with Brooke is like a few moments of him doing that 45-degree lean.
I guess that's
thing.
been the whole point in a way, where
Yeah, I guess
we
Brooke
had
is kind of just a meme.
we hit paradise. We hit the end of paradise and hit the new world. And when we hit the new world, it's like we're done. Like there's still world building events, but we're not building the world up anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're working to Onigishima's conflict and then the final war.
Yeah.
And that's all we've been doing. And it's like when you bulk read or bulk watch it, it hits very different and it works really well. You know what I mean? Because it's really been a snowball effect that hasn't played like any other island. You know what I mean? Like, long gone are the days that we just rock up to a random island and have a Davy back fight. Or rock up to an island and hear about a treasure map. Or hear about an island in the sky.
I guess it's fair because they're too big for that now, right?
Yeah. But that's, again, it wouldn't hurt to get a montage of that. You know what I mean? Like, even if it's just like after Wano, they're a bit of a bigger crew. We get to see a little montage of them going to a few smaller islands or trying to track down the final poneglyph. You know what I mean?
True, yeah.
But yeah, it's difficult. 16 chapters left in the arc is what Ged thinks the timeline will be. What do you think the timeline will be?
I think that's pretty accurate. I don't think six. I think six is a bit too short, but I think that high end I could definitely see. I don't think it'll be too long. Like when you think, I think this chapter was a bit of an exception, but most fights are kind of going on in like one chapter. I think even if you give Luffy like 10 full chapters, there's not that much else. Which I don't think he'll have 10 full chapters, but there's not that much else around him that can really go on now because a lot of it is kind of shutting down. Like with that bomb that happened, knocked the fire thingy away. So that even that storyline is kind of seemingly like at or near its end.
What do you mean? Oh yeah. There's still the bombs, but there's no demon.
Yeah, the big fire demon thingy that got like knocked away. So like, seems kind of like, and now like Yamato is also sort of talking with Momo. So it seems like maybe like one chapter, like obviously not the entire full chapter, but one chapter where they're kind of like chatting, and then Momo figures out whatever he's trying to do with the flaming. Because they've cut over to Momo going, "I got to stop this" so many times now that it's like, eventually he has to actually stop it. We need to move on from his little plot line, because so far his plot line has just been constantly coming back to him and him being, "I got to stop it" over and over again.
I think we may not actually get Momo stopping it.
Yeah. I'd agree.
I think, and this may be a bit of a highball estimate, right? I reckon 20 chapters, 20 to 25, right? Last volume ended at 1035, so this is the halfway of the next volume, right?
Yeah.
Big Mom's defeated halfway through this volume, right? So I think we're gonna get the next 4 chapters is going to be a mix of seeing a little bit of people like Luffy here and there, but mostly wrapping up every other fight and getting everyone into one location in Onigashima, right?
Yeah.
Then I think we're going to get one start to finish volume, which is 10 chapters of Luffy versus Kaido, with little bits mixed in with it, right? So that's 15 chapters already, right? Then I think we're going to get another 5 chapters mixed between the citizens thanking everyone, repercussions of the Yonko going down, and what's happening around the world. With the final sort of 2 to 5 chapters being us leaving Onigashima and finding out all the Void Century shit that we have. Right? Because at this point in time, plot lines that are set up that still need to be paid off is Orochi and Hiyori, Robin and Brooke versus CP0, the world government ships down at sea, Zunisha, Onigashima falling on the Flower Capital, the citizens of the Flower Capital, Luffy versus Kaido. So there's still sort of 8 big plot points left that need to be addressed.
Okay.
Predictions for next chapter, and we'll wrap up. My prediction for next chapter is... Well, I mean, it's on break, which is depressing, but it is what it is. But for the most part, what I think will happen next chapter is we may actually cut to CP0 finding out that Big Mom's been defeated. And there's going to be a shift in plan. Where what could happen is Big Mom's been defeated, that bomb blew up, and she's fallen down to the Tokage... to the port where you can go from the bottom of Wano up to the top of Wano. Right?
Yeah.
CP0 is going to be told that Big Mom's been defeated, and then going to communicate with the fleet to go pick up Big Mom's body. Mm-hmm. The fleet is going to be stuck in a pincer move between Zunisha walking through them and the Big Mom pirates trying to pick Big Mom up. Since the last time we saw the Big Mom pirates, they sort of just heard that there is another entrance into Wano.
Yeah.
So I think next chapter is going to be sort of half of that with Yamato. So you know how this fire demon's been sort of defeated. I think it's down to a literal matchstick of fire, and it's going to be Yamato snuffing it out. Right. Then sprinkled throughout, and I don't know if this is going to be directly next chapter or not. So we've got CP0 finding out and giving those orders. I think what we could actually get happen is Zunisha physically on the coastline, and Momo can see Zunisha or see the elephant's face, right?
Right.
And potentially Zoro, having fallen off into the rubble, will be saved by Frankie. While Raizo versus Fukurojuko will end with Jinbei putting the fire out on Raizo, and they leave Fukurojuku there to burn.
Okay.
Then, over the next couple of chapters, what I think will happen is everyone will form up, and we'll get some new, not really important plot lines lining up and wrapping up between all the fodder people, while we cut periodically to Luffy versus Kaido, just like in a couple of panels here and there. For chapter 1044 or 45 to be the start of Luffy versus Kaido's full fight.
I think Luffy versus Kaido's fight is just going to be a straight up, like, once it really fully kicks off, it's just that's it. That we're just focusing on that.
For 2 chapters, and then, or 2 or 3 chapters, and then it's going to be like everything else, where it's most of the chapters that with a sprinkle in of everything else. My reasoning for this is it follows the normal dynamic of One Piece fights, but it's also because the plot needs to keep wrapping up. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I think there's still a fair bit of the plot left. Like, only one of the bombs got detonated here. There's still all the other bombs on Onigashima here, right? So, if we find out that there's world government ships under Wano, or with that giant hole that Big Mum made, or that Law made, that Big Mum fell down, right? We still need a way to bring Wano to open borders. So they could put all the bombs down in all the landmass under the country, blow everything out, and then the whole island just falls.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
They've essentially hollowed out the island now, and we saw how big those bombs were. If there's still a heap of those bombs. You know what I mean?
True.
And I mean, like, look at the hole that one of them did to Onigashima.
Yeah, it was huge.
Not to mention the torpedo that blew up as big as the Flower Capital.
Yeah.
So it's like, there's a lot of explosive firepower here to level that. Because, again, I still think thematically there's a few things that need to be done. Realistically, I think Luffy versus Kaido may escalate from Onigashima to, if Kaido's too tired to hold up Onigashima anymore, Onigashima might fall and plug the hole next to the Flower Capital, potentially.
Mm-hmm.
But Luffy versus Kaido, I think, has to take a narrative turn to the top of Mount Fuji. You know, like a dragon and a wisdom god fighting at the top of the mountain above the capital.
Yeah, okay.
With Kaido eventually getting his ass knocked down in front of all these people. Because I think Big Mum wasn't needed for this, but I think Kaido needs to be seen defeated with Orochi in front of all the civilians.
Right.
Like Crocodile and Doflamingo, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. What are your thoughts on the next chapter? Or next couple of chapters?
I don't think this next chapter will have Luffy and Kaido in it just yet. At least if it does, it might just be like a line of dialogue. It won't have anything significant. I think this next chapter will be kind of like everyone else's sort of reactions to explosion, and the news about Big Mom. Part of me wants to say that it's going to be pretty big though, because we've had a break, right? This is a break this week.
Yep.
So part of me wants to think that it's going to be pretty big.
We still need to wrap.
It might be some more dialogue about what's going on with Zoe. Maybe some more things that's going on with the world government, like some more key information.
We still need someone to defeat Apu.
That's true. He's still running. I think we'll get more with Izo, because I don't think they can leave that plot thread hanging too much, because it was too suspenseful. So I think we'll get something going on with what happened with Izo and the CP agencies, even if it's either we just see the CPA running long and Izo's not there, so obviously he's gone. Yeah, something like that.
I could say that. Yeah, no, I could definitely say that. Okay, last few comments we've got. Do you think the last road poneglyph is on the moon, since there's so much historical evidence there, like in Skypiea? No, I do not think the last road poneglyph is on the moon, because that implies within the last 1,000 years, we've been able to go up and down from the moon. Whereas what I think has been implied is people and civilization came from the moon and planted Earth. If that makes sense. Everyone like the stream? Yo, yeah, if you haven't done so already, like the stream, subscribe to the channel, all that good junk. Is it a trait of sky people, since they are adept at breathing at higher altitude, just like how Lunarians are able to survive at all types of place? Look, that's really hard, right? Because we know that the Sky Island and Shandora directly links with Wano because of the poneglyph, right?
Yeah.
But the problem is those people came from the sky, and their island came from the sky, fell down, and then went back up. Or their people came from the sky, came down, and then got shot back up, right?
Yeah.
The city of gold that was at Jaya was where the gold is, right?
Uh-huh.
That country directly relates to Wano, and there's Kozuki. Considering Wano could be the island where it was made because of the continent pullers of ores, I could see that chunk of Jaya may have been where part of, like, Jaya and Wano may have been connected at one point in time. I've seen theories about that, and I think that does make some sense. The question is, the ancient kingdom, was it all one big island in all one place, or was it slowly separated over time? You know what I mean?
Right.
Whatever Oda does with it, it's going to be amazing. I just don't know how to predict it, because we've also got giants with a D, like Saul, but Saul's not from Elbaf. You know what I mean? So it's like, if all of the country was just one big island, then there's more countries out there than just Wano and Jaya / Sky Island.
Yeah.
And the people that are like, oh, you know, Wano's a perfect size hole of the eye that was in, you know, the Sky Island, Jaya, and all that stuff, right? It leaves out other pieces of the puzzle from other cities. They were all connected, though, in some capacity, right? We don't necessarily know what that capacity was, though. For all we know, that could have been one magnetic that could have been one path of the log poles through all of the Grand Line. And what I mean by that is, you had Alabasta, which had a poneglyph that led to Jaya, which was once part of Skypiea, right? That had a poneglyph, but then we fell from the sky and didn't land in the next island on that pose. We landed at Longring Longland, essentially swapping pose lines, and then went on another line for the rest of the first half of the story. You know what I mean? And then in the second half of the story, Jinbei goes to an island that had a poneglyph that had sunk beneath sea, right? But then every other poneglyph we've seen post-time skip has been moved about. Big Mum and Kaido... Well, Big Mum's moved her poneglyphs from around the world. Zo's a moving island, right? Arguably the only poneglyphs in the New World that haven't been moved are the one from Jinbei's cover story and Wano. And we don't know if they're on the same log post line themselves. So, arguably the Ancient Kingdom just ruled the middle stretch of sea throughout the entire Grand Line. And that's what the Ancient Kingdom was. It was a series of interlocking islands that was a direct path one to another that made a ring around the whole world. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And in that capacity, they would have had perfect trade route, wouldn't they?
It's true.
And then we don't know, like, what could have, like, off-split from them. Probably Ged. Arguably, he's a Logo and electricity doesn't need to breathe, but the Straw Hats could. Brook may not be, but that's debatable. Yo, maybe the Minks can also breathe in space, since there are some Minks pirates on the moon. I don't think those... I mean, I know they're animal looking, but I don't... See, it's hard. When you bring the moon into it, are the moon people that seeded the Earth? Or are they mechanical? Or did we go up to space in the past with the Ancient Kingdom? You know what I mean?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of crazy stuff there. When we talk moon theories, it's like it's a whole... You have to expect that the moon's going to be important. And that we're going to go there. You know what I mean? As opposed to it being a means to an end of a story. Like, I could see the argument that All Blue is actually the name of the planet that they're on, Earth. because from space, it's a water planet.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? So it's like, I could see something like that being the case, but I don't necessarily see a poneglyph being on the moon, us having to go to the moon and then come back down from space. Like, when there's 5 years left...
So we don't have to go to the moon.
When there's 5 years left of the story, and I want a final war, Laugh-Tail and Elbaf, I hope that those arcs last longer than a year. And if there's a moon arc in between them, I don't think they will.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Anyway, we're going to wrap the stream up there. Cheers for coming out. We've only gone for an hour and a half. I know we normally go longer, but like I said, this chapter was pretty much just like a, Oda was giving Law way too much hype and Kid was just like, eh. Which, one thing I didn't mention, but the cover page with the Vinsmokes, we get a flashback of Big Mum low-diffing Niji and Yonji with no Haki. 2-hit combo. Dus dus. So, at this point in time, Kid at least has better natural defense than Niji and Yonji, apparently, considering he was eating punches. Even Law, considering Law was eating Haki punches to the face.
Actually, though, that looks pretty good for the Vinsmokes, though, because really the only two people that went down are people that got directly taken on by Big Mom, right? So, which means none of the commanders actually took them out.
Yeah, arguably. But to be fair, when we last saw them with Big Mom looming over them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas the commanders, Smoothie was nowhere to be seen because she was on the fleet of ships behind them.
Yeah.
Oven was fighting, and we see Oven's fine in the other one, but Oven was fighting Aladdin. So arguably, Aladdin lost to Oven, potentially, right?
Yeah.
And Snack was fighting Judge, but they could have gotten out of there completely fine, considering we see Judge and Reiju and Ichiji fine.
Mm-hmm.
Which, do you think these guys are just stuck in here forever now, or do you think they're going to escape? Do you think the cold-blooded voyage is going to be following all the Germa, Yonji and Niji, or Judge Reiju and Ichiji?
Oh, it's so hard.
Because
I don't know.
it would be a lot of effort to come back just for these two.
Yeah, that's what I think is really difficult. Like, what's going to happen with them too? Because now, like, after seeing that now, I'm almost feeling like with Luffy's whole promise, and I hope it doesn't happen, well, with Luffy's whole promise of, because he did
Coming
say, yeah, he said come back and beat her, not just beat her. So it, like, I don't want it to happen, but it is actually possible that they have a whole nother arc where they go back to Whole Cake and just wreck house. And then you have a whole nother thing with like a whole nother storyline with Katakuri, and then Katakuri like kind of half betrays Big Mom, and then probably because Big Mom was being abusive or something, and then he like gets fed up, like in order to defend his kids or something, like his siblings or something, which is his whole thing. And then Luffy beats Big Mom, saves the Vinsmokes, and all of that. Like,
okay,
that you've got makings for an entire arc there. Right?
Don't be mad at me for saying this. Chat, you two, don't yell at me. Because what I'm going to say is painting a target on my back here. Big Mom fell down a hole and then had a massive explosion go off.
Yeah.
Are we getting Amnesia Big Mom?
Oh.
Is Big Mom just going to wake up and not be evil? And she can't remember why?
I can't say yes to that. I can't do it.
I don't want it. But it's an established point in the story that head trauma for Big Mom causes memory loopiness.
Yeah, you are right there. It is established. It is possible.
So Big Mom could wake up. Big Mom could wake up, not know what the fuck's going on, leave Kaido when she could have gone back up and kept fighting, and just go home.
Yeah.
And then she could get home and be like, oh, why are these two guys locked up here? Let them out.
Actually, it could be so much so that she thinks Elbaf is her home.
Yeah.
Because she goes back to, like,
baby days.
Yep. Maybe she goes looking for Carmel at the Lamb House on Elbaf.
Yeah.
Like,
And that's why she goes to Elbaf. Like maybe she literally goes to Elbaf, like not to be like, oh screw this, I guess I lost.
and
I'm gonna go kill the giants.
if
Like,
that's
that's the thing is like, why would she go to Elbaf?
if that's the case as well, Big Mom could be redeemed. If Luffy beats her down on Elbaf, and she gets her memories back, and she realizes what's happened to her and what she's done,
Yeah.
Big Mom could have a bit of a late life crisis and just sort of ease up on everything. You know what I mean? Retire and go back to her utopia. I'm not saying it would be a good thing for Big Mom to lose her memory. I'm just saying groundwork has been laid. It's been an established trait of the character, and it hasn't had payoff.
Yeah.
And the dominoes are lining up where if anyone's going to be able to get back up pretty quickly, it would be Big Mom. Like, I'm sorry. I would love for the zones to be awakened and there to be, like, an Act 4 where everyone gets back up and there's balls to the walls fighting and Hulk Hogan. You know what I mean? Like, I would love for shit to go, like, you know, how much of a fool would you think it's like this arc's got 16 chapters left most, and then all of a sudden it's like everyone gets up and fights again.
And like Zoro, for absolutely no reason, becomes like death incarnate, gets up and starts fighting again.
Yeah.
And then Sanji just like auto heals from his awakening thingy.
Everyone would be like, yes, this is so high, fighting. But at the same point in time, Oda might just be like, yeah, I'm just going to sprinkle some amnesia in there. You liked it for Sabo, you better like it for Big Mom. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I'm touch wood. I'm not jinxing myself here, but it's like, honestly, Big Mom has to do something. They've safely removed Big Mom from this arc now, so she very well could make it to Elbaf. And if Big Mom's going to make it to Elbaf, there is no problem. Like, if Big Mom's going to make it to Elbaf, Oda's going to do it to redeem her, but also have her fight Luffy a little bit.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which, I mean, imagine if Luffy just beats the shit out of Big Mom at Elbaf, but then the Elbaf giants take her out. And Big Mom, in a weird enough way, sort of gets the Horty Jones treatment. You know how Horty was stuck being a racist in prison that had aged too much?
Yeah.
Big Mom gets stuck in a prison on Elbaf, where she's losing her mind. And is just like, let me out of here, you'd be so much better if I led you. You know? And you got you got the giants that are strong enough to like keep her in check, standing watch over her, just like she's a prisoner of the royal family now.
Yeah, right.
And that all could get done pretty quickly. Because it's not like Luffy's needs to get on her level now. He's on her level. And if she's already nerfed and weakened and all that stuff, it could keep the ball rolling pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's just a potential thing. No, because she drowns when she got amnesia, but remember when her head is bumped, so I think no. I mean, look, I'm not saying it's gonna happen. I'm just, and I don't want it to happen, really. I'm sick of amnesia. Even when amnesia's done well, just having the word amnesia in a plot line just has me like, ugh.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It just feels like a cop-out. Just the word already feels like a cop-out.
Yeah. It feels like lazy writing. I feel like I've been taught it's lazy.
It's literally the, but it was all a dream.
Yeah. But,
same feeling to it.
Yeah. Alright. Let's wrap the stream up there. Thank you, everyone, for coming by. If you haven't done so already, like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon for more notifications, content like this. Check out my link in the Discord. The top link takes you to all the other social media stuff. It's definitely good. There's going to be a break this week, so I don't know if we're going to fill that time slot this week with another bit of content, or whether or not we skip One Piece this week and I finally get on top of getting caught up on some other series that I've been unfortunately letting lag. But I'll let you guys know on Twitter or on Discord. Any last words, Brecky?
No, none from me.
None from you? All right. Peace. Nothing but love. Nothing but respect. Have a damn good day. Goodbye.